is retired U.S. Navy captain and the first Soviet-born officer to be commissioned in the U.S. Armed Forces, Yuri Tabach.
Retired U.S. Navy Captain Yuri Tabach was the first Soviet-born citizen to be commissioned an officer in the armed forces and just left Ukraine. He joins us now to react. Captain, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, friends. Good morning.
Retired United States Navy Captain Yuri Tabach is in Ukraine. He spends about half time in Ukraine and half the time here in the Philadelphia area. He was born in Moscow, but at 14 years old, he came to the Philadelphia area with his family, has a couple of kids. I think his daughter is serving in the Navy as well.
Yuri Tabach, political expert and U.S. Navy captain, retired. The first U.S. military officer born in the USSR. In 1991, he served as Assistant Special Representative of the President of the United States in the post-Soviet states. He worked for the disarmament agency between the USA and Russia. He also worked in the UN mission in Georgia and U.S. embassies in Kazakhstan and Poland. He was Deputy Director of NATO's Counterterrorism Center in Turkey.
Can I call you a Trump supporter?
Here we go.
I had a very high security clearance in the U.S. Armed Forces.
I had an honor to serve in Poland on a team that transferred the F-16s to Poland. It takes a long time, even in peacetime.
I have served under 6 ambassadors. I had the honor of being aide-de-camp to one very famous ambassador. I always have the same mission. My original mission remains the same, to help wounded soldiers.
So President Reagan then became a president the very next day because the Iranians knew that he was a strong leader and he was a tough guy. And although the critics and the left was criticizing, at that time there was no left, but let's say Democratic Party, was criticizing him in the same way they're doing it to President Trump.
When it comes to the United States, we're not a monolithic entity. We have 50 small countries within us. We have a 2-party system. We depend on who is in the White House at any given moment. You've seen the difference between the previous president and the current president. These are 2 different countries. I think he had a pact with Putin from the beginning, or not even him, but starting back with Clinton. Then, it was passed on to Obama. We also know that the Biden family has been involved in corruption in Ukraine.
Yes.
Everybody knows. The Republicans say, wait, billions of dollars will go there, and they will get rich again. Because all of the mass media you named are leftists, and they are considered the mouthpieces for the Democratic Party. For some reason, only those media outlets are recognized as American in your country. But there are other media too. Biden said when he became president that Putin wouldn't stay in power for long, and you all applauded that Biden would clean up the mess. Why don't you talk about that now? Biden said there would be sanctions from hell that would bury Russia. Why don't you talk about that? I mean, he's the president today. Why don't you discuss that here? Why are you all fighting Trump? Your top lobbyist, Congresswoman Spartz, said, wait, money. She understands your local culture. And she said, look, we need a financial report. You're going to be accountable for it. It's not Congress or the Democrats or the Republicans. It's the White House that keeps you from getting weapons and aid. Biden, by the way, called and said there should be no resistance in Crimea. And then there were the events in Donbass. The lodgment for the rest of Ukraine was ready. Mrs. Clinton was to come to power. Ukraine was already celebrating that. Trump disrupted all the plans of the Democrats. They had to postpone it. And the Democrats themselves always said, we need to get rid of Trump by any means necessary, even if the price is a country like Ukraine. The Democrats got rid of Trump, Biden took office, and things went wrong on day one. Oil prices, Nord Stream, Lend Liz cuts, $12 to $25 billion that the president can give you right now. No, he's holding and blackmailing that package. Lindsey Graham, Republican senator, was in Ukraine yesterday and met with your president. And he said, we will never vote for this package because it contains $10 billion for Hamas.
because I'm a very outspoken anti-Putin and pro-Trump, which makes me a double enemy. And because I was a NATO officer representing NATO in Russia, it makes me triple enemy. And because I was a Jewish refugee from Soviet Union, it makes me quadruple enemy. So pretty much I'm a bad guy that the Russians don't like we did with Iran. Of course, Obama later on gave it back to them in cash, but and stop their economy from working. Also bring the oil prices to where they were. All we have to do is start pumping oil and gas like we did under the previous administration. When they say that there was a coup d'etat on the 6th of January of last year, really? Without weapons? How does that happen without weapons? You tell me.
Right now, we are turning into a banana republic where the opponent must be jailed or shot for any reason.
You're Soviet born. You're Russian.
Yes, sir.
And you're in Ukraine. You're in Ukraine, and the Ukrainians are being attacked by Russians. How do they feel about you? Any hostility to you?
No, because they're not. You see, there are a lot of Russians, what we call Russians, in Ukraine with the Russian last names, and the president of Ukraine is Jewish. And before that, the prime minister of Ukraine was Jewish. So no, Ukrainians are very inclusive. They definitely do not today like Russians, but many Russian people or Russian descent, they're fighting on the Ukrainian side.
The United States, in our struggle for power, in our struggle in competition for the Congress and for the White House, these unfortunate people are being used. Trust me, I'm a refugee myself. My parents were refugees. I was a young man when I was a refugee, but it was done legally.